This is my 23rd season breeding brassica vegetables, an effort that started mostly with cabbage and one that's morphed mostly into leafy greens and broccoli over the last 22, 23 years. The leafy green interest started around 2008. We were doing green bean work in Eastern Africa with Charles's PhD, and seeing the importance of African kale and how that linked to efforts we had amongst the brassicas really started to kick that off. The effort was helped with an academic venture fund, support from the Atkinson Center, and that focused on trying to diversify leafy greens in Africa, where we started to look at a lot of the market classes that are available, including the borecole types, collards, and Portuguese truncuda and Toscano types. So that involved testing materials in Kenya and Tanzania and getting a feel for some of the diversity that exists amongst the brassica leafy greens, which is considerable. That led initially into testing a lot of the collard collection from the USDA around 2009, 2010. I'm trying to identify some unique quality traits within that collection. That led to selecting some golden collards out of the cabbage collard types in that collection. And over time, moving the golden leaf color into the curly, flat and Savoy types that are more indicative of the kale markets. We also initiated around 2012 efforts on natural colors from brassica. This was really identifying high anthocyanin materials, ones that form desirable colors into the pH 6 to 8 range. And brassicas are very high in cyanidins. So we basically initiated efforts in the golden leafy greens and in the high anthocyanin purple materials. The popularity of kale over that time has increased dramatically. This started around 10 years ago, and the reasons for it are multiple. It's a very versatile vegetable. It's got more texture and integrity, so it's a better component for chips and smoothies. Also makes an alternative base for salads that can typically be more complex. It's also noted for having high levels of vitamins and minerals. The types that have become more popularized in the US are the curly types and the Toscano types. They both have high levels of leaf texture, and that gives a number of benefits in the market. It provides a crunch rather than a crisp than you get from lettuce. It provides a lot of volume in the salad by giving it the shape characteristics. And of course, it gives it the ability to hold dressing very well rather than slipping off like it would on a flat leaf collard leaf type. So kale is a little bit of a generic term because it can cross species, but essentially kale is in 4 primary groups. I would say it's in the tight curl borecole type. It's in the Savoy crinkle leaf Toscano or lacinato type. You have the flat leaf types, which include the forage kales, thousand-headed kale, and the collards. And then less common, you have the jagged leaf types. You can get these in the Oleracea types, and I've been working on them certainly, like fizz, but most of these are the Russian and Siberian types, which are actually Brassica napus, not Brassica oleracea. So the salad types, which are more fit in with modern markets, really form in with the curl and the Savoy that you get from the curly leaf and the Toscano leaf types. The market classes also seem to vary. It's not that they have better or worse nutrition, they have different nutrition. This is a preliminary study. Hannes Weygarden, who was a recent PhD student, and Carl Sams from the analyses for these down in Tennessee. But they did give indications that collards tend to be higher in the glucosinolate categories compared to the curly and Toscano types. And the Toscano and curly types tend to be higher in the carotenoids than the collard types. So among these market classes, you have different colors, different leaf morphologies, different nutrition levels, and you can create a type of fusion breeding where you can move some of these characteristics among the traditional market classes to provide some new market opportunities. The effort on leaf color has fallen basically into the aesthetic realm and the nutrition realm, and is focused on the more green and golden green types and the anthocyanin types. And this gives nutrition via the polyphenolics and the anthocyanins, and via the carotenoids and the glucosinolates, just in the regular leaf types of brassicas, of course. Part of it is diversifying from a fairly limited market class, Toscano. It's characterized as having this dark blue-green type, as many kales. A lot of people see this as high levels of nutrition, where a lot of the standard market classes are more this golden green type, romaine, arugula, etc. So part of it's keeping the crunch and dress and hold-in characteristics of the Toscano, but moving it into perhaps more mainstream market classes, and even focusing on these deep purple or purple vein kale types in those categories. The Toscano kale has a number of benefits. It's more self-compatible than the curly kale, so it's a little bit easier to work with in a breeding program, especially if you're looking to develop things like CMS hybrids. So these Toscano kales have been crossed out to multiple brassica species over the last 10 years, and a diverse set has basically been developed of inbred lines. During that time, we've also developed a CMS line that shows good complementation in hybrid production as a standard to do complementation tests of Tuscan pollinators. We've also been selecting the Savoy type and a sort of Toscano collard type of background amongst breeding lines, which you can see has much more vigor than this Toscano leaf in this image. So in 2020, 27 breeding lines, inbred lines, were identified that ranged in leaf shape, leaf texture, leaf color, from golden to purple to bright green. And they were all used as pollinators onto a common CMS seed parent. At the same time, this CMS seed parent was increased with the maintainer, with the seed company, to develop 1 million or so seeds in preparation for seed production. So these 27 hybrids were produced, and now we're identifying, based on vigor and appearance and uniformity, a range of leaf types. The color typically is intermediate to the two parents. The CMS seed parent and the pollinators are on the right. So this is an example of a selection of the blue-green leaf type with the TKP2. Then if we were to use the bright green TKP16 with the blue-green, we end up with more of a dark green look. If we use a golden pollinator, we end up with a bright green or a golden green color. And if we use a purple pollinator, we end up with a purple leaf Tuscan. And of course, these all share, they're all half sibs because they all share the parents. And so they will have some commonality with their production and maturity and appearance, just based on that criteria. So that's the work that's currently in progress. And we're also, of course, starting to look at Toscano collards, and this is where we backtrack to the African efforts, perhaps. A lot of the Sakuma wiki has more of this flat leaf herbaceous type, so the shelf life is very limited to just a few hours before it has to be used, of course. When you get this Savoy type into both parents that are being combined, in this case, an inbred of Savoy collard crossed to a bright green Tuscan, you can see how they can complement one another to really get vigor that's 5 times what the inbred parents is, and provide a very nice looking product that's going to cook down better to a larger amount and going to have a lot more shelf stability in the marketplace. And there's already a hybrid in Eastern Africa, Mafalmi from East African seeds, that has a little bit of Savoy, so that's already being shown to be popular in the market. The Savoy is more like the leaf type pure. So the effort now is to really try and move a lot of these purple and golden leaf traits across the brassica market classes. And Toscano has been a start, of course. It's something that needs various steps. You need to select the best golden types, you need to get them into the right plant types, then you need to do the CMS conversion. So once you get that into 2 parents that complement one another, you can actually get some very nice materials. We're doing a CMS conversion of TKP18 right now to be able to develop this. And anecdotally, what we find from these types of products is we hear that they're more tender, not as bitter, attractive. And so they have different market class characteristics that can be appealing to different groups, perhaps even the Southeast collard consumers. The Toscano is going to be the first group that's coming out. Of course, the traditional Toscano is the blue-green, but moving the purple vein into a dark green or blue-green leaf. Currently moving it also into the golden green leaf. It ultimately provides a diverse set of Toscano types, a next gen set, so to speak, which can be half sibs or very close, so can have similar horticultural characteristics, and then can be chopped up to produce sort of rainbow lacinato salad mixes, for example, or used, of course, in the baby green sets, as lacinato tends to be or Toscano tends to be a very good seed producer. So this has come through the combination of multiple efforts and funding sources, but most importantly, the ability to work with some flexibility as a breeder without being tied into very rigid criteria. And so that's just an overview of my next gen Toscano work. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer via the Zoom or via email. Thank you very much.